All right, and welcome to Hattrick Sports Talk, our Week 4 Sunday post show. I'm joined as always by Shane. How are you doing today, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Brandon will join us most likely a little bit later in the show. But let's get started with Sunday Night Football as we always do. With the Eagles and the Niners, my first question to you, Shane, is did you learn anything about these two teams tonight?
Yeah, I learned a lot about the 49ers and another team that was not even in this game. But I'll get to that in a minute. I learned a lot about the Niners because I realized that, their backups really aren't that great since they, lost to the Eagles, who have struggled to even be competitive in most of their games so far. And with the exception of Cincinnati, of course. And so it just goes to show that, I think this team, in order to be effective against really good, the 49ers, in order for them to be effective against really good teams, they need to have their starters, at least Jimmy Garoppolo. They win a lot when he's in. I mean, that's just a fact. But this game taught me a lot about the New York Giants.
Did the Giants game earlier today also teach you a lot about the Giants or no?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it just shows that really that both of the New York teams are just horrible. The fact that they couldn't even beat the 49ers practice squad.
I would just call them their backups. There's
Well,
very
I
few
know.
practice squad players, but yeah.
I'm just being sarcastic. Yeah, but anyways. And then, it's weird because the Rams, they've been pretty good up until, or at least for the first part of the season, right?
Mhm.
And of course, they struggled a bit against Buffalo last week, but I mean, Buffalo's a really good team, so
Yeah.
that's to be expected. Um, but then here they are, just barely beating a Giants team that I thought was horrible, and it's kind of weird. I mean, I wonder if this is who the Rams really are, because I thought this would be more of what the Rams are. It's just kind of a
Mhm.
not middle of the road, but just like an 8-8 kind of. I guess that is middle of the road, but like a just like an 8-8 kind of Cowboys team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it kind of seemed like that with the first game when they played the Cowboys, ironically enough. And that was a pretty close game. I was like, okay, these two teams are just kind of. But then the Rams, came out and won again pretty convincingly the next week. So I thought, okay, well maybe they're actually pretty good. And now I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So here's why I opened it with did we learn anything? Because I learned nothing from this Sunday night game. I didn't really expect to learn anything.
Yep.
Carson Wentz is still like I still there are like why does Carson Wentz, and this is a horrible comparison. I know Carson Wentz is way better than this quarterback, but why does Carson Wentz now feel like Sam Darnold?
I was thinking that too,
Do
actually.
you like there are moments like why every time I watch Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz this season specifically, why is it that there are moments where you're like, whoa, franchise quarterback, and then there are moments where you're like, he looks timid, he doesn't look
Hmm.
comfortable. They feel the same to me for some reason, even though I know Carson Wentz is twice as better, I should say, even though it's probably not inaccurate phrasing, but you get where I'm coming from.
Right. That's weird too, because I was thinking about that actually. It's funny you say that. Um, but I think that they are both showing this kind of timid style of play, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
for very different reasons. Darnold is because obviously he has no protection, and I mean that offense as a whole is just really lackluster. But the Eagles, on the other hand, they have a decent O line. I mean, it's not as amazing as it once was for sure, but um, but it's not bad by any means. But he just doesn't really have any weapons. I feel like there's not. I feel like he doesn't have a target downfield that he totally trusts, and so I think that's part of the problem. He's like, I think he looks a little timid because he knows he has to throw, but he's like, I don't know if I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so, and I don't know why that is, to be totally honest with you, because I mean, we saw him at the end of last year when he was throwing to, as you would say, lawn chairs, and he
Yeah.
looked great. So I don't. It's weird. I don't know. I mean, that maybe that's not even the case. That's just what it seems like.
It is weird for me because you mentioned all those things about the Jets offense, and I feel the same way about the Eagles offense. I really do,
Mm,
but like it's because like I don't now my obviously the Jets and Eagles running back positions is much different. We all know the
yeah.
capability of Miles Sanders, right? But that's not really their focus of their offense. I mean, the main thing for me was like there are certain moments where Wentz looks just messed up. Like there was a play in the fourth quarter where Greg Ward is just running in an out route, and he's wide open. And because that middle linebacker is sitting there, he just doesn't trust himself to throw the ball directly to Greg Ward where he would have been wide open.
Hmm.
They're like first quarter of that game last week, that happened consistently.
Yeah.
But I don't even I don't I'm less, or I guess the more I watch Carson Wentz, the more hesitant I am than Darnold to say he's regressed. I'm really hesitant to feel that way because we know what he's actually capable of, whereas Darnold, we didn't really know where his progression was.
Yeah.
So we saw it in the playoffs last year. I think that's part of the reason we saw it in the playoffs last year, with the lawn chair thing of like he's playing basically with these same kind of guys.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm less hesitant to say, oh, he's regressed. I feel different about it every week. Like maybe last week I might have said he regressed, but do you see where my mind's at? Like I just
Mhm.
don't know what to make of it right now.
Yeah. I I don't think. I mean, personally, I don't think it's fair to say that Darnold has regressed because to me, everything going wrong there, or not everything, but most of the things going wrong there are not his fault. Um,
I
I think,
agree. I
yeah, I mean,
agree.
he makes some bad decisions. No one will deny that. But I think if he was in a better organization that had even a little bit more talent than the Jets do,
Hmm.
um, he'd probably be much more successful. Um, I mean, this is no secret. I've never been a big Donald fan. I don't, nothing against the guy. I just don't think um, I don't see what everybody is all high on him for. Um, but, I was thinking about it. It's like, well, if he wasn't in such a bad organization, that would probably be a bit different.
Hmm.
So I don't know. But with Wentz, I don't get it. I mean, the Eagles organization, I think, is great. I think Doug Peterson is a really good coach. I don't I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's just Carson. Um, maybe he's had too many injuries and he's just afraid, or I don't know.
To finish up the Darnold point,
Yeah.
for me, the reason why I say he's regressed is I look at a guy like Josh Allen. And yeah, the Bills have done a much better job organizationally with giving him the tools to succeed.
Hmm.
But if we're talking about a natural progression, Josh Allen is the perfect example.
Hmm.
But Darnold, regardless of organization, there's no natural progression there.
Right.
And that's my biggest issue with him. But to Wentz for me, what I'm just struggling with now is I every time I watch the Eagles now, I look back to the draft and think, why didn't they draft a high receiver high in the draft? I mean, they didn't did they have a first round pick this year? Like I don't even remember exactly, but
They did.
but
I don't
like
remember who they got.
I I don't know why they didn't just draft a receiver high
Hmm.
because this receiver class was so so big. that I don't even understand why. I mean, they took Jalen Reagor. So, yes, they did take a receiver. Jalen Reagor's been kind of injured, so that might be also a fault of like this idea of the injury thing. So, yeah, I guess you can make a claim that the injury bug is clearly a problem with this receiving core. But not only that, their offensive line, I think tonight we actually saw the importance of Lane Johnson at left tackle. He was injured
Mm-hmm.
for a big portion of the game. The offensive line was never the same. It shows you what a stalwart at a tackle position or anywhere on the line can help the
Especially
quarterback.
tackle.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that was a huge problem as well. I mean, if it's really just the injury bug, is Alshon Jeffrey going to make and Jalen Reagor when I'm not even sure if he's fully healthy right now? Do you really think that they're number one guys right out the gate that can help Carson Wentz? I don't even believe that's the case.
Right. Well, and going back to what you were saying about guys and how they progress, that's that's the thing about Josh Allen to me, is that in my opinion he's a much better at, regardless of organization, uh, talent around them, whatever. I think Allen is just a much better talent than Wentz or Darnold,
Mm.
because he is much more athletic than them, for starters. He's much faster. Um, he and he's got a much stronger arm. I think what he needed to do was just work on his accuracy, which he has obviously, and then just make better decisions, which I think has come with coaching. And I just don't, that kind of groundwork, of just like having a player, like starting with the player being talented himself. Like, I just don't think that kind of basis is there for Wentz or for Darnold,
But
because
hang on though. Sorry to interrupt, but hang
no,
on.
that's
You
fine.
you remember what was it? The Super Bowl year when he got hurt. Now obviously another
Yes.
big issue is Wentz getting hurt, but let's take this out of the equation. Let's take the injury bug out of the equation.
Hmm.
You remember 12 weeks into the year, that year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Carson Wentz was the MVP at
Yeah.
that point. I still voted him as the MVP winner because I didn't think
Yeah.
Tom Brady deserved the MVP. I thought Wentz did enough in 11, 12 games to win the MVP that year. I don't like, that's where I struggle. It's like he's on a massive contract. He's not on a rookie deal anymore.
Yeah.
The guy he should be polished right now.
Hmm.
He shouldn't be at this point where we're comparing him to Darnold or Allen at this point. The guy isn't even on his rookie deal anymore. So you can't even say these kind of things. And
Yeah.
how does it change from the playoffs where he has the same amount of talent and produces and plays as well as he did to now? I just can't figure it out. This all goes through my head. I just cannot figure it out for my life. Is it the injuries? I mean, I don't really think so. That's why I'm not bringing it into the conversation, but that's why I'm struggling so much. I just don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. Well, when I say that, well, what I meant is like Wentz doesn't have the natural athletic ability or arm strength that a guy like Allen has. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? That's what
That's
I
fair.
meant by
That's
that.
fair.
But
That's fair. No,
um,
absolutely. That's fair.
so put Allen in the right organization, he's a star, which he is. For him. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what the issue with Wentz is. Honestly, I think he's just kind of. I think he's just a bit timid after all these injuries that he's had. I mean, he's been injured every year, hasn't he?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So I
It
mean,
could be trusting the receivers as well, which we mentioned earlier.
yeah,
It could be a combination of these things.
yeah. Because I mean, I highly doubt it's a coaching thing.
It can't be.
Um,
Doug Peterson's called some great plays for him all season.
yeah, no, because I mean, I think Doug Peterson is one of the more underrated coaches in the NFL, actually.
Oh, he's one of the top coaches in the league, no question.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's
Mm.
weird. I mean, I didn't. I never thought that Wentz was amazing personally, but I never thought he would be at this kind of a low.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is Yeah, this is weird.
Mhm. And then in the Eagles quarterback room as well
Hmm.
is Jalen Hurts. Now, obviously, I'm not asking to put Hurts in, but what I'm
No.
going to ask you is, what are your thoughts on how they're using him as a gadget player? And obviously, it's a very small sample size, but you, of
Yeah.
course, watching him a lot more in college than most people, I'm sure. What's kind of your impression on how the Eagles are actually using him? And do you feel that they're going to be using him more and more often as the years go along, not as much this year?
I think it's very possible. Yeah. Just looking at a guy like Hurts, I don't think he has really starter potential in the NFL, just based off of his skill set. But you look at him in not in Oklahoma, but in Alabama when he was still there, not as a starter, but when Tua was the starter. That what was that 2 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what it was. I mean, Tua was, he was mainly the passer, and then they'd bring in Hurts, and then he would do kind of these, run plays, gadget plays, like you said, and that clearly worked out really well for them. So, um, I think in an organization like Philly, with a quarterback like Wentz, I think something like that would work out pretty well here too. And it seems to be good for the most part. I mean, they haven't, like you said, it's we haven't seen much of it yet. Obviously, we're only a few games into the season, and of course, the Eagles have struggled, so it's kind of hard to gauge. But I figured for getting this guy in the second round, I figured he wasn't just going to be sitting on the bench as
Mm-hmm.
Carson Wentz backup. I figured they were going to kind of get him involved in some way, and so I thought this would kind of be it, and it is. So
Mm-hmm.
so yay. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely the right thing to be doing with him.
Mm-hmm. I have something that's gonna make you upset,
Okay.
angry, but also funny.
I'm ready.
Here is the NFC East.
God.
The Eagles are now
The
again.
NFC joke.
We are 4 games in. I do not like to look at divisions 4 games in, but this is brutal. Is anyone gonna go above 9-7 in this division?
No. And this is why I've said this thousands and thousands, maybe millions of times, that the way the playoffs are laid out should be like basketball, where it's not sorted by division, but
No, well, it
instead,
is to some degree.
well,
It
kind of,
is.
yes. But you should just okay. So if you look at the standings, right? Okay. If I'm commissioner, if I'm Roger Goodell, okay, this is what I'm doing. Okay. We're gonna have playoffs. Okay, so we have 7 seeds. Forget the divisions. We're gonna
Yep,
have
we have 7 seats. That
Seahawks.
changes things.
Hmm. So we have Seahawks in the one, Green Bay in two.
This is hypothetical, of course, but
Yes.
yes.
Um, then Tampa Bay at three.
Probably look at New Orleans in there, probably
Yeah,
eventually.
and then instead of having Philadelphia as the fourth seed, okay, give it to the fourth best team.
I
So
guess in this case
either
would be Chicago
so
right now,
either
but that will change.
Chicago uh, or
The
was there another
Rams
the Rams? Yeah.
in this case, again, we're so early on.
Mm-hmm.
But I
So
mean,
why would my thing is why would you give a high playoff spot like that? I mean, 4 out of 7 that's pretty good. You get a home game, whatever. Why would you give that to a team that is crap, who shouldn't even be in the playoffs? It's stupid. It's a joke. Give it to a team that actually earned it
no,
instead of
now,
just, you know what I mean?
now here's my question about this though,
Okay,
right? So let's say this is a normal year where we have fans in the stands and stuff.
sure.
So in the 7 game set that we are in, right?
Uh-huh.
An NFC East team one is going to make it in regardless with
Hmm.
7 seed. So you're basically saying put, let's say, the Eagles in this case in the 7 seed because of record.
No, or if there's a team like New Orleans, for instance, who has the seventh best record,
In
put them
this,
in. And if nobody from the NFC East gets in, well, that's too bad for them.
I mean, I kind of get it, but I mean, this has kind of been the structure for a long time, but it is getting
No, I
frustrating to
know
see
that.
the East be as bad as it is. Like Washington before this game was the leader in the division.
Yeah. So then to see them get the fourth seed while a team like, you know, uh, Chicago or the Rams or something, who's way better than them, have to go on the road to play them in the playoffs, you know.
Yeah. And let's move on to
Anyways.
another NFC East team in the Cowboys.
Uh-huh.
That Browns Cowboys game was honestly a thriller. I don't
That was
know
crazy.
why are the Cowboys games so fun this year. Like good ratings. I mean, good ratings. I
Shootouts.
guess means good football.
Yeah.
Again, I'm starting to really love this Cowboys offense.
Mm-hmm.
But why do the Cowboys and the Browns feel similar to me? Do you have an answer to that? Do you think they're very similar?
Yeah, I would say so. And here's why. Two mediocre defenses, two average quarterbacks who can be productive but are kind of inconsistent. Or not inconsistent, but don't always get you wins or,
Let's say
come
wins
up
against
big.
better teams. Let's
Sure.
put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. Yeah. Really good receiving cores on both of these teams. And two all-star running or like top 5 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty much the same. They're both very, kind of flashy, little egotistical, Um, so yeah, I mean, to me, to say that they feel the same, I think that's a very fair judgment of them because, I mean, they are, in my opinion, just looking at everything and comparing
Mm-hmm.
them.
The hardest part for me with watching both of these teams is like tonight everyone's overreacting going, "Holy crap, this is what the Browns look like and this is what
Mm-hmm.
they should look like," and all this stuff when you got to realize that if their schedule gets worse down the road, like yeah, they probably could make the playoffs, maybe it'd be tough, but
Yeah,
like they're going to play teams like the Ravens like they did in week 1 and get trounced.
Steelers.
Yeah, they're gonna play let's say yeah, those two teams in their own division and they're gonna get trounced.
They have, I think, two games against the Steelers, and then one more game against the Ravens, right?
Yeah, I
I
think
think.
so, yes.
Yeah.
Like, do they
So I
win
mean,
any of
those are
those?
no,
Like,
those are all
no.
losses.
Like, and so
Maybe they win one.
that alone says what you need to say
Hmm.
about the Browns. Like, they're
And
they're a
they might
team
lose. And they might lose their second game to Cincinnati. I wouldn't be surprised.
for how Burrow's playing for sure. But
Yeah.
it's like, come on, let's not overreact to this game. We know what they are. We know what the
Right.
Cowboys are. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the Cowboys actually come back says a lot about the defenses that they've actually played over the last, few weeks. But like again, I think it's as we both mentioned, they're the same team, and it's becoming more and more clear. And
Yeah.
it's honestly frustrating because these two offenses are probably going to end up top 5, top 10 in the league, but the defenses could end up 20th maybe by the end of the year.
Yeah. I'd say that's about
Is that
right.
a fair estimate? Like
Yeah.
it's
That's probably,
that's
yeah, that's what I'd say.
I mean that's pretty clear for those two teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we is it time to hit the panic button in Houston? Is it Houston? Do we have a problem? Do you think we have a problem in Houston?
uh, yeah. I mean, like, dude, what is happening here? I mean, you got okay. This is yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting Houston to do as well as they did last year. Because, they lost D-Hop, and they were already kind of struggling last year. But good Lord, like what? Like, man, they really fell off. Now, I mean, it's understandable that they started 0-3 because look at who their first 3 opponents were: Chiefs,
Mhm.
Ravens, Steelers, all really good teams. So, give them a break. But then they come in here, they got Vikings, who are also 0-3. They've been pretty lackluster for the most part, and yeah, no. Gosh, it's just, yeah, no,
You know,
it's definitely time
yeah.
to panic in Houston.
You know what's the one image that represents Houston perfectly
What's
that I
that?
always end up seeing every time I watch Houston's offense? Deshaun Watson just running and
Yeah.
running for his life.
Yep.
And their receivers aren't even that bad. They have
No.
depth at that position. Brandon Cooks should be playing as bad
Bowler.
as he is. Key Kuti's nice. Randall
Mm-hmm.
Cobb's a good veteran. They
Yeah.
still have nice receivers. The core's always been good. And don't forget about Will Fuller, of course, who's basically the number one target now.
Yeah.
They have good receivers. The tight end isn't too bad. Aikens got hurt today, but like this offense
They
shouldn't
got
be as bad
Bell.
as it is.
Yeah.
With that offensive line, like Deshaun Watson's just running for his life.
I think that's the main problem is the offensive line. Because you look at teams like, I don't know, like Seattle, for instance. They have their offensive line. It's not very good, but Wilson, he's really good at improvising. He's able to escape, do his thing, buy time, whatever. Deshaun can do that, but he's not as good, and he does it all the time because I mean, it feels like he does that on every play. And then defensively, I mean, they don't.
They
I
have
mean,
depth at corner, but not great depth. Like
yeah,
it's middle of the road depth.
and then they got a couple guys that are good in the front seven. That's about it.
I mean, honestly, like I feel like after this game, I mean, we've already been critical of Bill O'Brien and his offseason decisions. I think we're going to be critical about the on-field stuff this year at some point.
Yeah,
We're getting there at least.
I think the first problem is that he shouldn't be the general manager.
Well, yeah, I think that we've been very clear on that for
I
months.
mean, I think he's an okay coach, but he, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he's the general manager. I don't think he's very good at all.
Shifting to the other side with the Vikings.
Yeah.
This was actually an amazing case study for the Vikings. In that this game, they felt different to me, where it was like, how many times this is some of the cornerstones of offenses, right? Have the running game basically produce the pass game, have the running game
Mm-hmm.
open up the pass game. This game was exactly that. Dalvin Cook
Yeah.
had a great day. Kirk Cousins had a great day because they opened up the pass game. And you know what? This was the first game in how many years? I mean, last week with Justin Jefferson, yeah, but this game more specifically, how long has it felt where you sit down and watch Kirk Cousins and go, oh, he trusts Adam Thielen and he trusts his
Right.
other guy, Justin Jefferson. He looked like he trusted his receivers, and we saw it last week, but more so this week. He trusts those two guys. And
Yeah, they both had great games.
and I felt they're going like, okay, that's how it should be here. That's how Minnesota wins games.
I
I
mean,
think it was
that's how we all thought it would be. You know what I mean?
I know, but am I right in saying like this was the perfect case study for being like this
Yeah.
is how Minnesota wins games?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just. I mean, I don't know what they were doing the first 3 weeks. Honestly, like Kirk Cousins got negative fantasy points in a game. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like. I don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Once you get him out there throwing to, I mean, Thielen's a fantastic receiver. I mean, you just need to get him involved in the game. Crazy concept, I know, but you don't need to rely on Dalvin Cook. Yeah, he's a great back and he's a great complementary piece, but he doesn't have to be the whole entire offense.
He can open up the offense.
Yeah.
And that's what it was today.
Yeah.
And then after seeing what Justin Jefferson did as well, like he trusts him more than he ever trusted Diggs ever, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of insane, but it's kind of true. Like the last 2 weeks, it feels like Jefferson, like Kirk for some reason trusts him more than he's ever trusted Diggs in his career. Am I crazy for saying that?
No, it makes sense. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Um,
And I don't know, again, it's a 2 week sample size, but still.
right. Yeah, I mean, if they can be more consistent with that as the season goes along, yeah, they can start making some noise for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, defensively, they got a whole nother issue, but
Oh,
um,
so I heard I forgot who said this, but I think it was I forgot who, maybe some NFL Network contributor or whatever. So I apologize, but I think it was really interesting what he said about the Vikings defense, and I think because Vikings defense is very vanilla, very cover three, very like tactically simple
mhm,
in some ways. Well, over time, that tends to wear off. And even with the more
right.
talent that they have with Yannick Ngakoue, who hasn't been very productive at all, amazingly this year, over time, that kind of defense kind of starts to wear off because teams kind of start to figure it out. And I think, I apologize for whoever said that. I wish I could give credit, but I thought that was a really accurate analysis of this defense.
Yeah, well, and I mean, besides that, their personnel is just much worse than it was
Mm-hmm.
last year because they lost quite a few key pieces. So I mean, I think I mean, offensively, if they can keep playing like that, I think they'll be fine. Really, it's just defensively they need to step up, and then they can be more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Although it will be tricky because Green Bay looks really good, and Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
well, Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get to Chicago in a bit. Actually, speaking of
Yeah.
coverages, I think they were talking about this in the Sunday night broadcast about how the Eagles, when they picked up Darius Slade, they started to switch from more of a zone scheme to a man-to-man scheme to deal with some of these running quarterbacks. Can you talk about why like man-to-man defense is a little bit more effective in those cases than zone for some of these quarterbacks that run more often, or why more teams are running like a base cover three or a man-to-man style defense nowadays? Those two uh, why are those two defenses so much more common nowadays?
Well, part of it is because when you're playing in zone, you're going for the most part. Your DBs and linebackers are going back,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the thought now is like, well, let's put the pressure on. Either blitzing or if it's man to man, no, they're not going to go back, but they're going to stay kind of in the area guarding their receiver, but also, sort of keeping an eye on the quarterback. You know what I mean? It's not
Mm-hmm.
like they're just going back to their one area. Okay, I'm ready for my play.
I'm ready for the player that I'm guarding in that
It,
zone, or if someone comes in
right?
there.
Because with man, that's part of the part of the objective is that you're not just on your man, but you're also kind of keeping an eye on the quarterback, seeing if he's actually going to pass or run, whatever the case may be. And especially like if a lot of teams they'll have a linebacker who just if it's a mobile quarterback like a Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray, whatever, they will just have a linebacker who just stands there in man and just watches the quarterback, and they'll either
Kind of
blitz
a
or
QB
they'll
spy, kind of.
right, or they'll either blitz or they'll wait on the other side of the line of scrimmage in case they run, then they can get kind of the edge on them. Because that's what they did in what was it? That's what Tennessee did in the game against the Ravens in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seemed like no one had been able to stop the Ravens, but then in every single play they had an outside linebacker on either side of the tackles who was just ready for Lamar in case he ran,
Mm-hmm.
and it was quite effective because I mean in that game they shut him down. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean the game is changing quite a bit, so
Hmm.
defense will change with it, and I think we're really starting to see that.
Hmm. And then also talk about the cover three and why that's been so common. Seattle is very much a straight cover three defense most of the time. Why has that kind of been a shift where teams just kind of stay in a base cover three with some switches once in a while?
Well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, I mean, I could be wrong, but my own thoughts on it is like, in a lot of ways you look at it and it's just kind of because offenses are getting so high powered and creative nowadays that that's just kind of like a safe, kind of defensive coverage because it can kind of, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the offensive play call is. You can kind of use like a cover three effectively in some way at stopping whatever kind of play, even if it's you get 5 yards or whatever, um, because everybody's just assigned to their one person, and you just go where the action is, so to speak. Because there's risk and reward in doing zone and blitz, and man is kind of the Goldilocks zone where there's not a lot of reward, but there's really no risk in it either. It's just kind of it's very safe.
Hmm.
And to me, that I would guess that that's part of the reason. And like some coaches are just still trying to figure out how to catch up with these really creative offenses that you see with so many teams now.
Hmm.
Um, but I could be wrong.
Hmm. Let's get to that Bears game now. Yikes. That Bears offense, doesn't matter if Trubisky's in there or Foles. Now, obviously, we'll get to that Colts defense, and they've been the number one defense this year, so that's also part of it. But
hmm
no matter who's at quarterback, this offense just doesn't function at all.
Yeah, not well. Well, I mean, I don't. It does. I think it does depend on the defense because when you look at them last week against Atlanta, who
Yeah,
has
not a
a
good defense.
no, and they did great, at least with Foles in the game. So I, I think it's a little bit of both. I think for starters, Indy, like you said, has a really good defense, but also I think that the Bears also are kind of reliant on their defense because I mean, you know, let's be honest, offensively, you never know what you're gonna get. They're middle of the road,
Mm,
or maybe a little worse. I don't know, but I mean, Foles is, I mean, he's great, but he's not like a franchise guy, and I don't
mm-hmm,
think that. I think the weird thing about the Bears offense is that everyone there is either like an old veteran who is getting ready to retire, or else it's like a new guy who still has to develop. And so it's just this kind of weird, like, crossroads where it's
mm-hmm.
kind of like, okay, well, how do we manage this?
It,
Or
it, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
And you know what makes it harder for me to watch?
Huh?
It makes it harder for me to watch and realizing the amount of talent they've actually built on this offense as a whole. David
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery is the only back left with Tariq Cohen, unfortunately tearing his ACL. But David Montgomery had a tough game today, but he's been, okay. He's been a guy that they can rely on. We saw Allen Robinson late in the game, of course. Colts kind of lacked coverage towards the end of the game because, of course, they want to run the clock out. But still, Allen Robinson is a top receiver in the league, doesn't get enough credit. A guy like
Yeah.
Anthony Miller can be in and out because he's a great player as well, but he can be in and out because you never know what production you're going to get for the quarterback. Seems like Allen Robinson's the only like trustworthy target for any of these quarterbacks, and it's really frustrating with the amount of talent that is on this offense because it has more talent
Yeah.
than people realize. It's just the quarterback doesn't showcase it.
I know. And I mean, I think that Foles is, a much better option to kind of
Trubisky,
get the ball around. Well, yeah, I mean, anything's better than Trubisky. You might as well put a freaking high school player in there. But well, not really. But
he went last in our NFL quarterback draft
yeah,
this
he
summer.
did.
So Jared Stidham went over him. So just saying.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get a little glimpse of Jared Stidham, aren't we?
No. No, we
No?
will not. It will be Brian Hoyer tomorrow night.
Oh,
We'll talk about that game
well, that's awkward.
towards the end of the show. Colts defense. What has impressed you about this defense? Because other than Darius Leonard, there's just a lot of really good depth, not as much like true talent on this defense. But together as a unit, they're number one in the league right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think honestly the biggest reason that they're number one is because look at the teams they've played. I mean, it's you got let's see, there's Jacksonville, who they lost to, and then you have what they played Minnesota. Yeah, they played Minnesota at one point, right?
I believe so. I'm pulling up their schedule right now.
Who was?
Yeah, so lost to Jacksonville, win against Minnesota when Minnesota was terrible, and then the Jets.
The Jets, yeah.
And then the Bears today.
And the Jets are obviously just an absolute dumpster fire on
at Browns next week. At Browns next week.
At Browns.
That'll
be interesting.
Yeah. At Browns next week.
Because that'll be a good test for the Browns offense and the Colts defense.
Yeah.
To see if they're both really as good as we think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I want to see that game, and then we'll come back and discuss the Colts defense then. But yeah,
let's go to the Cardinals and the Panthers. I get it. I deserve to be trashed after this. Like I get it with the whole Kyler Murray thing. Here's my deal with this game.
Okay.
You know what was my reaction to this game as I was watching it? Not the fact that the Cardinals offense was terrible, but the fact that the Cardinals defense, for how banged up they are, put that offense in such a terrible position where they had to try to control this game and they couldn't. Kyler's too young, even for how good he is. He's too young to get the ball every 5-6 times a quarter and expect to win, regardless of the Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater being a manager or whatever. I was more frustrated with the fact that Kyler was getting on the field almost too much, because every time you look at that game, the Panthers were in the red zone really quickly. And I just thought it was more the Cardinals defense just being absolutely gutted.
Yeah, I think this game most of all just showed that this Cardinals team, they're just still very young, and they, for the most part at least, of course you got Fitzgerald in there, but
his role has been much different in this offense.
Right. But yeah, I mean, that's, it just shows, I think, kind of their lack of experience, just between the defense not being able to, not being able to. Normally when you look at defenses, you think, oh, they need to be off the field as much as possible. But in this case, it was kind of for the opposite reasons, because they just kept scoring or the Panthers kept scoring instead of them shutting them out. And so then, then when you do that, then you got to go to your second-year quarterback and say, okay, now pull us back. And that's, it's a lot of pressure to put on a guy who's young, as good as he is, what I mean? But he's, young coaching staff, young players. I mean, that's a lot of pressure to put on them. just to kind of hope that they will bounce back and be great. You know what I mean? And carry the team and keep scoring and outscoring. And I mean, that's kind of tricky, but
Mm-hmm. My biggest thing is this Cardinals defense, as most defenses as we've gone through in this show, are banged up. The Cardinals defense as well is banged up. I'm not ready to write them off. I still have them with 10 wins. I'm not ready to write them off after 2 weeks. Yes, it is concerning. I'm not saying it isn't. And I said last week, it's kind of the Lions, right? We know Lions Cardinals is kind of stupid. It really is. It's kind of ridiculous. As I told Brandon last week, the Cardinals struggle with NFC West teams and the Lions. It's really weird. It's just how it is. But the Panthers, not so much. So let's see this Cardinals defense get a bit healthier. Let's see them on the field a little bit more. I'm not going to write them off after 2 weeks. Give me 1, maybe 2 more weeks. And then if we have an issue, then we have an issue. But right now, this is kind of maybe just a small bump in the road, I feel, right now. I'm not ready to write them off.
Yeah, I mean, this is about how I was expecting them to be. I mean, I figured they'd be like 9-7. They'd have their hiccups here and there or whatever. Because just, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think, yeah, they'll improve this year. And I mean, it seems like they have so far, but it's really like next year, the year after, where I'm looking at them thinking, okay, this is going to be a really good team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Once they have some more time to just mesh. And I still think that'll be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I still see them winning 8-9 games.
Yeah. I still have them winning 10. I'm not going.
Yeah.
I have to wait a couple weeks. That might change. But as for right now, I feel like, as you said, young team, I feel like this is a small yet bizarre bump in the road, especially how the first 2 weeks went for this team. But
Right.
That's kind of how I feel. Chargers Bucks. What a duel this was by the rookie quarterback Justin Herbert.
The rookie backup almost beats the legend.
Beats
what a story that would have been.
So first off, let's be honest about this. I don't know what Anthony Lynn said in his press conference, but let's be honest about this. Unfortunately for Tyrod Taylor, this is another one of those ridiculous situations where some bizarre situation happens where a rookie quarterback comes in. You cannot put Tyrod Taylor back in this offense. It's done. It's settled. It's over. It's over.
Knowing Anthony Lynn, because he just, it seems like he finds every reason possible to say that Justin Herbert sucks. or backtrack. Well, yeah, that, but also why Tyrod should be starting. I'm betting you he's gonna say, "Oh well, Justin didn't win, so why would he be starting?" Okay, yeah.
He didn't actually say it. I don't know what he said in his presser, but still.
He did say that for the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
Because everybody was, hyping him up. He's like, why is everyone hyping him up? He didn't even win. It's like, so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking he's gonna say something like that for this game too. It's like,
yeah.
Well, dude, look at your defense. if their defense hadn't performed so poorly, he would have won. I mean, this guy scored 31 points against a defense that is top 10.
No, I wouldn't say top 10. I would say top 15 and upcoming. Can we say that?
Well,
I think that's more fair. I don't think the Bucs defense is top 10. They're not. Right now, no. Right now, no. There are certain pieces where, you could say they're top 10, but I would say top 15 and upcoming. I think by mid-season, they could be in top 10, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is that fair?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he puts up 31 points against them regardless. And it just so happens that Tom Brady, the greatest of all time.
He is. He is. Stop.
It just so happens that he was on the other team who scored one more touchdown than your rookie in his third game. Yeah, what do you think's going to happen? Of course that's going to happen. Didn't happen with Russell Wilson back in 2012, but that's okay.
We don't need to go back there. We're talking about Herbert
No,
now.
no, yeah, no. No, I mean, because you sent me a message during the game and said Herbert is a future star in the making, and I absolutely agree with that. I mean, no, he hasn't won yet, but I mean, I don't think the Chargers organization is that great. I don't necessarily fault him for that. You just look at him as he has played individually, and he looks really good, really, really good. Um, you know, I was a little worried about him because he didn't seem to progress much in his senior year, but it doesn't seem like that mattered too much.
You know what's amazing about Herbert? So this Chargers team, right? Of course, losing Derwin James is a huge issue for this team defensively.
Yeah,
But we've talked about it for the past years when Philip Rivers has been there. And we said, yeah, this is a top tier roster. I don't know if they're top tier anymore, but they're still pretty solid as a roster overall.
yeah,
And the biggest thing with this game for me was I sat there and went, they took the training wheels off him.
mm-hmm.
So how are they gonna like legit this game? They were like, go. Finally they were like, go.
Yeah,
Training wheels off, go, do your thing. And it was incredible to watch.
mm-hmm.
This quarterback competition is over just simply for that reason alone, that Anthony Lynn and this offensive staff was like, do your thing. And this
Right.
offense functions better with him because Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry and all these talented weapons that he has, which again, more quarterbacks.
They get much more involved.
Right. Which again, most quarterbacks don't have that in their rookie year. Most don't. So, I mean, and he's performing at this level. I mean, he's making NFL level throws. He's very comfortable in the pocket. He's not as much of a runner as I thought he was. Like there were pieces where it's like he's not really a natural runner, which is a bit of a frustration. But for this Chargers offense and how Anthony Lynn likes to run it, I don't think it's that big of an issue. It clearly hasn't been. The quarterback competition is over, and Herbert honestly, for the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to be awesome. Mahomes and Herbert in the same division. It's going to be ridiculous, I think. I think it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. They are in the same division. And Drew Lock, if he, continues to do well.
Mm-hmm. We don't know, of course, with the injury, but yeah.
Right.
I'm still a Drew Lock apologist. You have to realize that.
Mariota.
Oh yeah, Mariota on the bench for Las Vegas. Let's get to those Raiders really quick. Obviously, we mentioned the Bills. The weird thing with the Raiders is defensively they're pretty banged up, as they always seem to be. Again, banged up defenses is kind of the theme for week 4, as we're kind of seeing. But this Raiders offense, like, it doesn't even seem like they need a number 1 receiver. It's amazing how Derek Carr is just comfortable with everyone in this offense. Now, does it equate to wins? No, and that's the problem. But Derek Carr in this offense functions really well, and I think this game showed it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's the offense's fault that they have lost. I think it's more of a defensive thing. And yeah, I mean, that's, and that, I mean, that was to be expected too, because I mean, the Bills' offense is just firing on all cylinders, and going against that defense. Yeah.
That defense looked a lot better today. And how about Josh Norman's performance as well? Let's not forget Norman is a nice veteran presence for this defense, and I don't think we expected that going into the year.
No, he absolutely is, and I think that's what they needed, really, or one thing that they needed. But in terms of this offense, I mean, looking at Derek Carr, if you look at him just who he is as a player, I mean, he's he is really accurate. I mean, he completes 70% of his passes pretty consistently, which is incredible. I mean, that's like Drew Brees numbers. And especially now that you got some solid presence in the backfield too.
Oh, Josh Jacobs is ridiculous.
Yeah, so good. And then of course you have Tight end.
So
What's his
tight
name?
end, you got Darren Waller, who hasn't been very
Waller.
productive. Unfortunately,
He's
hasn't been.
been he's been pretty
Last
good
2 weeks
though.
has been
He had 9
tough.
catches today.
Yeah, last 2 weeks have been kind of rough for him, I would say.
Yeah.
But of course you have Jason Witten. But like look at the talent on this roster. So they picked up Nelson Aguilar in the offseason.
Right.
They have Hunter Renfrow, who was kind of their number one option. Henry Ruggs was out today. I mean, there's not really necessarily like one big star like Antonio Brown was probably going to be on this Raiders team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something about Derek Carr in this offense that he's just comfortable with the guys he has.
Well, they all get the job done.
Yeah.
And they're not bad by any means. None of these guys, you know.
And it's like, would he be better with a number one receiver? Yeah, but does he need it? No. And then it goes back to the question of, is Derek Carr an incredible franchise quarterback? No. But he is a franchise quarterback, and the reality is the problem, like John Gruden has to understand this, that the problem with this team is the defense. It's not Derek Carr. It's not Derek Carr at all.
I think, I mean, if you watch our show, you know that I that I always talk about the Raiders and their 99 problems and Derek Carr not being one of them.
This game showed it today more than any other game over the last few weeks, maybe the last year or two. Like this game showed it to me.
Because he just isn't the problem there. I mean, no, the guy's not Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson, but I mean, in my opinion, he's, if he plays like this, he's a solid, like 10, 11 ranked guy probably, just based off of his accuracy and consistency and whatnot, ability to make plays. So
yeah, and Jason Witten was a nice add too.
Yeah, that's
this
true.
Team in the red zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just a defensive thing, and I mean the defense is very young. Jonathan Abram, unfortunately, keeps getting injured. Excuse me, but it's really the defense is the problem.
Khalil Mack was still there. You ever think about that?
Well, I mean, I think they got a nice haul for him. Like they picked up Jacobs for him and a bunch of things. Like I don't feel like it was a terrible haul. But I don't know because let's be honest, with the Bears defense, they're on the field way too much that you don't even really notice Khalil Mack anymore, which is really frustrating. But that's a whole Bears issue. Let's talk about the Saints and the Lions. Of course, I don't know if our opinion really changed on the Saints in this game. But with the Lions, what are your thoughts on them now having Kenny Golladay back? Are they do we have a different thought process on the Lions as we did last year? Because last year we thought, okay, they're kind of up and coming. This year I've kind of fallen off on that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think his presence definitely helps. Because Stafford to me is kind of like a Derek Carr, funny enough, that I think he's very underrated, underappreciated. And I think if he just had a little more help, he would be a lot better, a lot more productive. Today they scored 29 points, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And if they weren't playing the Saints offense, which is for the most part, pretty high scoring, they could have won. And, I think a lot of that just falls on bad defensive play. But with that being said, I do think that Golladay is a great addition because, he
was injured for 3 weeks. That's why he's kind of, coming back into the fold, and he was very productive today considering that.
Yeah. His difference, it's huge. It's very noticeable. And so, I think that, no, I don't think they're going to be like a playoff team, but I think, at least offensively, they'll make some noise, I think, with him back.
Here's what I'm frustrated with. And I can't figure out necessarily why this changed, but at like whatever, week 8 last year, we were sitting back in the studio, everything was kind of more normal. And
the good old days.
And we were sitting there saying, yeah, we like the Lions. We like the culture. We like all of this stuff. And then we
Well,
sit
they
here.
started 3-0 or something, or 3-1, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, something like
whatever
that.
last year.
And now we're, into next year, and I'm sitting there going like, Matt Patricia's gonna get fired.
Hmm.
And the culture here, like, it doesn't even feel like there's a culture anymore. It just there's something about it that just doesn't feel the same. Like, it doesn't feel
Right.
like last year at all. Stafford's not that issue, but like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get it because I had much more, like, I had higher expectations for the Lions this year. And my expectations have dwindled significantly over the last few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, me too. I mean, I was I had higher hopes for this team, but not necessarily higher expectations.
Yeah, that's where you and I differ. Yeah.
Because I was sitting there thinking, okay, they looked really good when Stafford was in there last year. Um, maybe, you know, maybe they're going to be better this year. But then I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, knowing them and considering this division and just the NFC as a whole, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And but it's not like that's even the case. Like there's just too many other good teams. It's like they just aren't good themselves. You
Yeah,
know?
it's not even that. Like, it's just they don't feel like the same team they were
Yeah,
last year at all.
it's weird because I figured that once they get Stafford back in, they'll look pretty good like they did at the beginning of the year. And well,
Mm-hmm.
here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To finish off the Sunday slate, it's not really my intention to finish off the Sunday slate with the Seahawks, but I guess we ended up here anyway. Um, that was not what we expected at all. What was your reaction to that Seahawks Dolphins game in Miami?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. It's I think they got kind of lucky with their scheduling, considering all the injuries that they have right now. So it's like they're playing the Dolphins and then the Vikings, two teams that are weaker, and then they have a
Well,
bye.
we're pretty impressed with the Vikings today, so we'll see what
Yeah,
happens next Sunday night.
yeah. And then they have a bye, so they can heal up, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
anyways,
You know what's after their bye week, right?
San Francisco
No. So
or
listen,
Arizona.
listen to this. So here are the next, like, let's say 5 or 6 weeks for the Seahawks
I
after
know
the
it's
bye
at
week.
Arizona and then San Francisco, right?
At Arizona, at home against San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
at the Bills, at the Rams, and then at the Cards, or at home against the Cards. So again, Cardinals away, Niners home, Bills
Niners home
away,
and probably healthy.
yeah, Bills away,
Yeah.
Rams away, home Cardinals the next 5 weeks after the bye, week 7 through 10. And then week 11's against the Cards at home.
Honestly,
That's rough.
I I hate to be that guy, but I I think they only win like 2 or 3 games out of those 5,
That's how I feel too, unless they get healthy in the bye week.
which it seems like they probably will because the timeline for most of these injuries are, 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, like Jamal Adams, he'll definitely be back after the bye week. Um,
Or maybe a few weeks after, maybe week 9 against the Bills or something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
well, he said,
I guess it might
what
be
is the
sooner.
timeline for his recovery?
I
I
think it
actually
might
don't
be two
know.
to 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so yeah, he'd probably be back after the bye, but regardless, um, yeah, I mean, and one like Dunbar, he'll probably be back, and uh, but yeah, no, that's a tough stretch right there. um, but yeah, I mean, I think that today was interesting because it definitely showed just how these injuries are affecting them. Offensively, they still looked fine, but Russell definitely had his worst game of the year, even though he wasn't even that bad.
Mm-hmm.
um, and but the running game was pretty good. The fact that Chris Carson was back is incredible.
The fact that he
And
keeps getting injured is scary. Even for
well,
like the less amount of carries that I don't think he has the same amount of carries as he did at this point last year, but it's like he got hurt,
but
like he came back, but he got hurt again.
okay, here's the thing though. Yes, he got hurt in the Dallas game, but that was a total cheap shot.
Yeah, no, but
Okay,
I'm talking about this game. I'm
but
talking about this game
that's the
today.
thing. Did you see when he was hurt though?
Not no, I don't remember the play exactly.
Okay, well the play, he was running full speed, and there were like 6 dudes. I'm not even kidding. Like defensive line, like 3 defensive linemen, just big 300-pound guys and linebackers, whatever, all sprinting directly at him. Just bam, hit him like a brick wall, ran right into him. So and they like all landed right on top of him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wasn't hurt. He was just like, because when that happens, when you get tackled by when you're someone of his size and you get tackled by 6 dudes like running at full speed.
For how aggressive he is, also.
Yeah, I mean, even if you know, even if you're not injury prone or whatever, I mean that's gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So then he was just out for the rest of that drive, and then he came back in and he was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't really concern me because
Does it concern you long term?
no,
No, not at this
not for
point.
right. Well, I mean, not for like the rest of the season, no,
No.
because I mean that was just one weird thing I think, but he got up and he was fine. Or
Mm-hmm.
he didn't get up, but he was,
He came back to start
the
the
next
second
drive
half.
he was fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So no, I don't think it's a big deal. But it was scary at the moment. I was like, oh dang, he rushed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Came back too soon. But no, I
Mm-hmm.
think he's okay.
Here's something to highlight with the Seahawks schedule though after the bye week. The reason why we say this is a tough schedule, even after all the things we said about the Niners, the Cardinals, and the Rams today, here's
Mm-hmm.
the reality of the NFC West. It doesn't matter how good or bad these 4 teams are. They beat up on each other always. Yeah. It doesn't matter what we say about these 4 teams because
Competitive division.
every time they match up against each other, no matter who it is in this division, it doesn't matter what happened the previous weeks. It
It's
just
a
doesn't.
total wild card.
It's ridiculous. It's one of the only divisions where that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
still feel I don't know. I know I don't know exactly for everyone in the division, but I feel like everyone's gonna split against everybody if that's even a realistic possibility in the division. It's just hard for me to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, if that were to happen in any division, it would definitely be that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I just feel like it's gonna be like you're gonna have games where it's just I mean every one of them is just gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
And then to finish off before we'll finish off with our fantasy star MVPs and we'll talk about the NBA Finals game tonight because it was quite interesting. But we'll get to the Monday slate. We have a Monday doubleheader. It's not exactly a doubleheader because like after the first quarter, Patriots Chiefs were like headed right into Monday Night Football with the Falcons and the Packers. So that was a strange scheduling quirk. But let's kind of rewind back to where we were on Friday, where we did talk about this Patriots Chiefs game. Cam Newton, of course, testing positive. Unfortunately, wish him best in his recovery. He is doing okay, which is good. He'll maybe be back soon, hopefully. So Brian Hoyer starting. Thankfully, the CBS game is nationally televised. They don't do this in the past when they reschedule games. Sometimes they just put in the local markets. So thank you to the NFL for that we got both these games on national TV, as it should be. How does Brian Hoyer starting change the tactics for both of these teams, the Patriots and the Chiefs, tomorrow night with the first of the Monday night slate?
Well, I think it makes things a lot easier for the Chiefs defense for starters because now the Patriots offensive attack is much more two-dimensional. You just have your running backs in their case doing their thing, and then some of their whatever short dink and dunk passes. You don't have to worry about another rusher in the quarterback because Brian Hoyer's not mobile. So, I think that makes things a lot easier for them. But for the Patriots, offensively, I think they're going to struggle quite a bit because when you look at the Chiefs' defense, yeah, they have talent, obviously, but I think that the thing that really elevates them is their game plan and their schemes and how they execute more
The
than
game plan
anything.
is much easier for this Chiefs defense with Hoyer in, you think?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, then Cam, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
because
For
they don't
sure.
have the running component from the quarterback. So you can
Absolutely.
just yes, I mean you can just blitz guys on both sides of tackles and get pressure to them all night, and yeah, you know
So,
what I mean.
so here's the biggest caveat for this game too. I don't think it's going to be very competitive. I think it'll be very interesting because
Yeah,
anyway, Monday night, whatever. It's going to be interesting to see how the teams adapt to the fact that they're playing on Monday night when they should have been playing on a Sunday afternoon.
yeah,
That alone is interesting in itself. But the reality is Brian Hoyer and Bill Belichick have a rapport. They've been around each other for a long
yeah,
time, pretty much. Even though it's been in and out, Brian Hoyer's been out in the organization. Bill still knows him very well.
yeah.
So I'm sure he has a game plan for him. Like I'm sure Hoyer's not coming in here going, I don't know what to do. I
Well,
don't know
no,
what
it's
my
not that at all.
I don't think that's the and that's my point. Like I don't think Bill Belichick is sitting there going, well, we're panicking because Hoyer's there. Because obviously the offense is going to look different. It's going to look a lot
Yeah,
like Brady offense a little bit, from his days in New England. But it's not gonna be as crazy as a shift as people think it will be, which I think will
no,
make it interesting.
no. I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think that, like you said, they're not scrambling, panicking. What do we do? Because they're obviously have that familiarity. It's just the only issue is they just don't have an extra form of attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Especially
but they
against
never
a.
had that with Brady anyway.
No, I know, but I mean, Brian Hoyer and Tom Brady.
Much different, of course. Much different, but I'm saying in terms of the tactics of last year, right, with
Yeah,
Hoyer,
sure. Yeah.
the tactics are basically the same. Obviously,
Right.
Brady is a much, much better quarterback, but I'm saying in terms of
Yeah, by a
tactical
mile.
basis.
Yeah.
But in terms of tactical basis, the offense is going to be very similar to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing that's where I kind of don't like their chances is because you looked at if you look at their personnel and just, like their tactics last year, I mean, they struggled against teams that had even half decent defenses.
Yeah.
And, Kansas City's defense, as we've seen, is pretty good, especially the front seven. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It should be interesting, but I don't see it being close at all.
Yeah. And then the other game for this Monday night, actually, really quickly, just an update on the schedule. So 4:05 Pacific on CBS. We got the main commentary crew, thankfully, of Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, and Jim Nance. Thankfully for that. So that's 4:05 now p.m. Pacific on CBS,
Tony Romo.
and then 5:50 p.m. So moving up from 5:20, 5:50 p.m. on ESPN. Falcons Packers. So let's get to that Falcons Packers game. Let's say the Falcons are up by 20. What happens? I mean, that's what I'm
I
sitting
kind of
here
hope
thinking.
they are. That's not going to happen, but
No, but that's what I'm sitting here thinking. I'm just like, how do you as a team mentally recover from this? And in realizing that you're playing on national TV, luckily there's another game on at the same time. But I'll be honest, I guess everyone's gonna be kind of flipping
but
back
no
and
one's
forth.
going to be well. Okay, if the other game ends earlier though, which it will, then
Right.
everyone's going to be watching
Seeing
for
in
the
the fourth
comeback time.
right. But how? That's my question. Is from a psychology perspective,
Yeah,
you're coming at this game basically national TV. Obviously, it was going to be the main game. It isn't, or whatever. But in saying that, this is national TV regardless.
mm-hmm.
How do you deal with this mentally? 2 games where you're down by 20 and you lose or whatever. Like, how do you deal with it in realizing how good this Packers offense is as well? Like, How do you deal with this?
You know what's funny, actually? I saw this. I saw this article, and this guy who's like a math major was breaking it down, and there. So let's see. Before the comeback started in these last two games, they had a 99.6% chance of winning. The Falcons did, and then a 96.1% chance of winning, I think.
Jeez.
And then, so the fact that they lost both of those in back-to-back weeks, the chances of that happening were like 1 in 990,000.
Jeez.
Oh man! But anyways, I don't know how you get over that mentally, because if that happens, they're going to psych themselves out. You know what I mean? Because the Packers are miles ahead of the Cowboys and the Bears, right? So,
Yeah, and offensively, they're so much better.
oh yeah. So, but no, I don't even think that they will. I don't think that the Falcons are going to score more than, you know, 20, 25 points.
Right, but I'm saying in terms of the psychology of this, and the fact is you're playing on Monday Night Football,
Yeah.
like the week after those two, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how, as a staff, as a team, you manage that. I just don't know.
I don't either.
And that's where I'm just sitting here going, like, it's not even about how good the Falcons are in this game. It's just, do they, like, as you said, like, psych themselves out? Because that's my instant reaction when thinking about this game.
Because the mental aspect of sports, not just the, not just like the knowledge and knowing uh, playbooks, schemes, whatever.
And the physical aspect.
Right. But just your own, not motivation, but your, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like mindset, basically.
Right. That's huge. That's, people don't realize it, but that's like 50% of your success right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, your mind is a powerful thing. So it makes sense. And yeah, when you have this whole team who's collectively has this, kind of like this, they're in this recovery from losing these insane comebacks back to back weeks. It's hard to get out of that, to snap out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at guys like, why do you think like Lamar Jackson has such a hard time winning a playoff game?
Or a primetime game against a team like the Chiefs,
Right.
we saw last week.
Because he freaks himself out. I bet you money. You know what I mean? Not that it's not that he's a bad player or anything. He's great. But just his mindset just isn't there. I could be wrong, but maybe I'm reading into it too much. But at least that's the way it seems,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Because we
I don't
kind
know,
of know
but
what the Packers are offensively. Like, we know kind of what to
right.
expect, but for the Falcons, I just don't really.
No, the Falcons, they'll put up some yards. They'll make a little noise, but they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna do anything big,
Mm-hmm.
um, or maybe this is the week that they finally come out and go ham. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I doubt that.
Yeah.
Especially against this team.
Let's go on to another guy going to the NBA who went ham today in Jimmy Butler with the triple-double performance, 40-point triple-double performance to give the Heat a surprise win against the Lakers. Miami balled out today. Jimmy Butler said, like, I'm not losing. He's just absolutely balling. And there were other guys too, like Duncan Robinson played well. Tyler Hero played well for some of the first times of this series. Kelly Olynyk played well. AD didn't play as well as he should have. But here's what everyone's talking about after this game. Kuzma didn't have a terrible game necessarily. But here's the thing that's so consistent with LeBron teams for years upon years upon years. And it showed itself in this game and the media and how they're speaking on it. It's hard to talk about LeBron without saying, sure, he has another star, Kyrie, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the supporting cast is always what everyone sticks on, right? Who else is going to get the points? Who else is going to get the assist? Who else is going to get the rebounds? Who is that third guy or sometimes fourth guy on those Heat teams that can help them win? And this seems to be an over and over and over conversation with LeBron, but it happened again in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even like, what do you make of this constant conversation with LeBron? And obviously I think we expect the Lakers to win this series, but who knows what happens on Tuesday after this one. But the supporting cast, let's be honest, as a whole didn't play that well today. What do you think about this being sort of this constant conversation, no matter where LeBron goes, of the supporting cast and their struggles?
I think the reason it falls on them is because people look at LeBron and, you just assume that he's going to be good. And 9 times out of 10, he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, whenever something goes wrong, people always look elsewhere for blame. You know what I mean? There has to be a reason that XYZ isn't working. Okay, well, LeBron. No, it's not him. Who else is there? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big reason for it. And, I mean, in a case like this, I mean, that's, that makes sense. Because if AD had played more like himself,
At least
they
from the
probably,
box score piece, but yes.
yeah, they would have won. Let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he scores like 30 points, it's just you don't beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing. It's you had Kuzma who played decent, but
He got the points, but everything else,
right.
where was it?
But other than that, they really didn't have anybody.
Even Morris got points, but again, the other stats
Yeah.
weren't necessarily there.
Right. And so I don't know. I would say that this concerns me, but I look at the other team in Miami, they're not going to have Bam or
They didn't have Bam today. So they might have Bam game 4, but we don't know that yet.
Oh, I thought he was out for sure.
He was out for game 3, but we don't know about game 4 on Tuesday.
Yeah. I think if regardless of how Jimmy Butler plays, I think in order to beat a good LeBron and a good AD and even a half decent Laker supporting cast, I think they all really need to be on their A game. Not just Jimmy, but also Bam if he's healthy.
Duncan Robinson, who was, at least from the shooting perspective, Tyler
Hero, who he's going to be out, isn't he?
No, Hero played today. He's good. I believe.
In game 4.
I don't know. I don't know if he's hurt.
There's
I didn't get a report.
Out. I don't know. But anyway.
Goran Dragic was out today as well.
Oh,
we don't know about Dragic's status or Bam's status for game 4 at this time.
Yeah. But this is still anybody's series. We kind of thought that it was over for Miami, but if
just 2 days ago,
yeah. But if LA, well, for starters, if AD doesn't step up, and if they don't have anyone else in the supporting cast step up, and whereas if Miami, Butler continues playing like that, and if they get, some of their guys back and healthy again, they could win it. They really could. And I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
Or at least keep it much more of an interesting series.
Or keep it competitive, I should say.
Which they have it in the first 2.
I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know.
it's weird for a couple of things as well with the LA supporting cast to finish up. Danny Green is not a shooter anymore. He just doesn't shoot the ball at all. And they brought
No.
him in to be a shooter. I think they paid him a 3-year deal. He's not that player anymore.
Right.
I think one player for some reason, and I'm part to blame for this, but I think there's one player in this rotation that's being unfairly treated, and that's Kyle Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had high expectations for Kuzma to be kind of that third fiddle here.
Right.
And he just hasn't been. But if he's on any other team, I don't think we would have the same expectations for Kuzma. And I'm at fault for this as well. I think everyone's at fault for it. But, and obviously a lot of Lakers fans are just upset at Kuzma. But like in general, do you think Kuzma is just like, there's a little bit too much on him? There's a little bit too much pressure on him to be that third guy? And do you think that was the case all year and we just didn't notice?
I think there might be now, but throughout the year, I don't know that was the case because I mean, people, at least to me, it seemed like during the year people were more talking about like Rondo, Caruso, not as much about Kuzma, but I think if they gave him, I think if they just gave him more minutes, that would
Kind of let
help.
him go a little bit,
Yeah,
like
just
try
let
to
him
get him in the
play
starting lineup.
because he
Yeah.
had what is it? He had 22 minutes and 19 points. I mean, that's pretty good.
I mean, not much on the assist or rebound category, but
Well,
still, you would
no,
expect more from. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, if he, I think if you let this guy in and just let him be, like your primary, well, not primary, but one of your shooters, just let him play, do his thing, get the
Let
ball
the
to
game
him,
flow
whatever.
to him basically a little bit more.
Right. And then get AD a bit more shots too,
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think this team would be really, really good. Uh, Basically unstoppable. But yeah, that hasn't been the case. He was only on the floor for half the game. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think you're right. I think it's a flow of the game thing. I still can't believe he's not starting. Um, at some
that's the
point.
biggest thing for me. I don't get that at all.
But he hasn't started the whole year. But I think you're right. I think just let the game flow to him a bit more, take some of the pressure off him, and just let him play. He'd be a much better option for this team than all the weird like hatred he's kind of getting. Like I don't really get that in that sense, where he should
Mm-hmm.
probably be getting more time and again letting the game flow to him. So I think those are some of the big takeaways of this game.
Yep.
Yeah, game 4 is Tuesday, so that should be very interesting. And then fantasy stars of the week. It's only gonna be me and Shane for this week for the picks, but who do you have as your fantasy star MVP for this Sunday slate of games?
I didn't think this would ever happen, but I'm gonna say Odell Beckham Jr.
OBJ.
Yep, he this guy had quite a game, and I was not expecting it. And it was
38.4 points in
yeah,
ESPN Standard PPR. Yep.
and it was and I mean this guy was a big reason for them coming out on top and
Mm-hmm.
uh, triumphing over this Cowboys offense. He had some really great plays, a couple good scores. Um, he's my fantasy MVP for the week.
So the big thing with Odell from a fantasy perspective is this is really a matchup play.
Yeah,
He's really a matchup play moving forward, unfortunately. Not where he was drafted, but it's what it is. ADP is not the actual game itself. He's a matchup play moving forward. I don't believe this is production you'll expect from moving forward. I really don't. His
no,
defenses get harder. But
I
for
mean
this
again,
week,
it's just this 1 week.
for this
Yeah,
week, it was impressive. I'm going to stay in the state of Ohio and say Joe Mixon 42.1 points. His breakout day, really.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon is a frustration in fantasy beyond belief. I've never had him on my roster for this reason. He is a massive frustration because he's rated way too highly. He's rated top 20 for me, not top 10 or top 15, but he always is rated there just because of this. Just because we know what he's capable of being as a runner. But in this case, the offense opened up for him and he was able to absolutely run amok. Now, it's going to be interesting to see over the next few days whether he's considered a sell high candidate. I consider him a sell high candidate. That said, I might be interested in trading for him, which is pretty bad. But I will say that I think for me, he's a sell high candidate, but a lot of people might look at him as a buy low candidate after today. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he's someone you could sell for someone else at this point just because of his track record? Do you think this is something that he can do more consistently?
I think he needs to. Yeah, I think he should be doing this more consistently before, people are out there saying, "Oh, I'll
trade a top level receiver
I'll
or something.
give away Michael Thomas for this guy." Yeah, but I mean, if he keeps, if he does keep playing like this, then yeah, sure. But I mean, I don't think that'll be the case.
I mean, even with Joe Burrow and how well he's passing, you got to realize that offensive line is terrible, and it's affecting Mixon probably not as much as Burrow, but it is affecting him too, and it's affecting how he's scoring.
Is.
But for today, we're going to stay in the state of Ohio and say Joe Mixon and Odell Beckham Jr. And that is it for today. Thank you, Shane, for joining me. Brandon will be back on Friday. We'll get through the rest of the NBA Finals throughout the week and all this other stuff. We got some crazy sports as we in this crazy year where we have a lot of stuff going on. It's been a lot of fun, though, here in the fall. So stay safe, everybody, and have a great rest of the week. We're back to school, which is kind of crazy. Can't believe we're here in October, back to school, but it is good to be back. But stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you all on Friday. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your night. See you all.